Welcome, climate viewers. My name is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News. It is March 5th, 2018, and wouldn't you know it, I just got done putting up my latest interview from the Weather Modification Conference I attended in Austin. And it's entitled Don't Talk About HAARP with the U.S. Naval Research Lab. And what do you know? I get a little update. And HAARP's back online. So here's the title from the ARRL. HAARP facility to resume ionospheric research this week. Dated March 2nd, 2018. Alaska's super powerful high frequency active auroral research program transmitters in Gakona, Alaska will fire up again for the spring research campaign April 6th through the 14th. University of Alaska Fairbanks Space Physics Group researcher and HAARP chief scientist Chris Fallon, whose I believe ham radio operator number is KL3WX, told ARRL that more than 40 hours of air quotes externally funded experiments are in the queue. So quote, scientists from the U.S. universities and government labs will explore the physics of scintillations, magnetic field aligned plasma irregularities, artificial and natural atmospheric air glow, stimulated electromagnetic emissions, plasma waves, and radio-enhanced ionization, Fallon said. The HAARP's transmitter is still at 80% net power, but by summer, we expect to get that bad boy back up to full power. So, yeah, so the HAARP's back at it, cooking the sky. See, for those who are new to this, never heard of HAARP or don't know what an ionospheric heater is, let's break out the chart. So I made this infographic. It's from an article I wrote called 10 Technologies to Own the Weather Today. And as you can see in technology number 1, ionospheric heater. And what an ionospheric heater can do, as pictured right here, that is the HAARP array. It can cook the sky. So we can actually look at the scale here, which I've set up for you. And we're at 39,000 feet down here where planes fly, 31 miles up here. And then you see the sounding rocket. It's deploying plumes of aluminum and barium, as I like to call them, chemtrails from space. And above that, way up here, is where HAARP is cooking the sky. So we're talking at an area from 100 kilometers to 300 kilometers, typically 93 miles, way up in the sky. Now, all of that energy, obviously, is transferred through all of the layers along the way. So absorption of energy occurs. But the goal here at the very top, you can see artificial aurora is what I have. And then also the artificial mirror or lens, which we all know can be used for military implications, from denial of radio frequency operations to extending radio frequency operations, things that were mentioned in the Owning the Weather papers, things like Sanctuary Base, where only we can speak to the heavens and nobody else can. But of course, we're just talking about, people from the colleges. This is just college boys. So Chris Fallon and the University of Alaska. And, in all fairness, the University of Alaska has been pretty forthright and out there in public about it. They sure do have a Facebook page that's pretty active right here. Testing of the rays got well this week. No showstoppers. Making nice little graphics to say, hey, we're online. We're doing our thing. It all seems so damn warm and fuzzy. I mean, I remember when I started talking about ionospheric heaters back in 2007. Whoa, this is a whole new world. Watch for the TFR near Gakona for a spring HAARP campaign. So, of course, whenever you turn on a microwave this large, you might want to tell pilots. So they've set up a local phone number right here for pilots to call in to get detailed information on, when the HAARP facility is going to be online, because Lord knows it might really suck if you were to fly near that thing. I mean, good Lord, who wants to fly a metal plane right over top of a big ass microwave? So yeah, so you could check out all the fun they're going to be having this week. They're at Twitter at UAF HAARP. That's UAFHAARP. And then Chris Fallon is at CT Fallon. And I me and this guy have gone a couple rounds last time when they were doing his harpoon thing earlier last year. But I was just looking into it and seeing, where does he get his money and stuff like that. And it's of course a National Science Foundation grant. And you can look into this. And it says, that, hey, man, we're just going to like tag this on to, campaigns that were already planned for this February. So apparently the HAARP facility has been kind of busy lately. And the reason we really don't know about this is kind of weird. Let me find the page. Where were we? Right here. See, there used to be this thing called the HAARP induction magnetometer. And it's what we call the waterfall chart. Everybody got to see this back during the Fukushima days. You could see the 2.5 hertz, resonant tone that was created by the ELF. So whenever HAARP was really resonating, we could tell when it was on and off. And it made these really cool charts. So I said, what the heck happened with that? And it turns out on their page here, it says the induction magnetometer was removed by the U.S. Air Force during the site shutdown in June of 2014. So that's why we don't have that waterfall chart that we used to have and know when HAARP was on and off. So really what we're at the mercy of is, the honesty of people like, Chris Fallon saying, hey, we're doing projects right now. That's a step in the right direction. But I want some like full-time, real-time readout of, when these frequencies are on, because as we know, HAARP is one of many ionospheric heaters in the world. So for that, we're going to go to climateviewer.org and ClimateViewer 3D and actually look at the HAARP facility. So just so we're all in the same spot here, this is Alaska. I'm up here at the top of the world. We're going to come down here, and here we are in Gakona, Alaska. Now, the HAARP facility is all of this together. Most people just think it's this square. The square right here is the array of antennas. The antennas look like this. Now, there's 72 of these bad boys. There are 180 towers, and they're 72 feet tall. They operate from 2.7 to 10 megahertz. And together, all of these wires on all of these antennas have 3.6 million watts going into them at full power. And all of that is focused at the sky on a location, and they boil it. And that's it in a nutshell. The idea is to cook a portion of the sky. Now, while doing that, of course, they can perform all kinds of experiments. And, that's why they have all these other instruments here. Like down here's an optical, observation post where they can, go inside this dome and, watch them create air glow, or what's called artificial aurora. But it's radio excited air glow. It's a way of using microwaves from the ground to actually make the sky glow. And then right next to that is a riometer, which I have photos of here, and that helps them diagnose what they're up to and other things. This is the instrument pad 3. They have a DigiSonde, which is over here, and this is the aircraft alert radar that we were just talking about. This actually tells people who are flying by, hey, get the heck out of the way. You're going to get your ass spoiled if you fly over this thing. And then up here at the front, you have another radar that most people don't know about, and it's called the Modular UHF Ionospheric Radar. It's called the MUIR. It's a test bed. I believe this is an earlier version of what became the AMISR, the Advanced Modular Incoherent Scatter Radar. Basically, what you have at HAARP is now micronized on this table. So where you had 180 antennas that are, 72 feet tall, this probably has 200 antennas and they're only a couple inches tall. Makes sense? Everything gets smaller, right? So HAARP is old technology. They've really micronized a lot of this stuff. AMISR and RISER-N are the two new big ones that they have for that. Anyway, up here at the front is the control research building, and this is like the control center. So they've got cameras of the field and all kind of diagnostic panels and all this. This is one of two different control locations where they watch it. I used to call it Death Star 1. It's like fire up the Death Star, and this is where they would sit when they would do it. And then that's pretty neat stuff. So anyway, lots of pictures in here. You guys know that I'm a mapping nerd, so I go through this. This is run by diesel engines. A lot of people don't know that. So it costs a lot of gas to turn HAARP on. So Chris Fallon has to, literally in his grant money go, look, hey man, I need a lot of gas money so I can boil the sky. True story. Can't make this stuff up. So, I got some links in the details. Pretty interesting stuff. You can look through all this. This is the VHF ionospheric radar. All of this is located at the HAARP facility. As you can see, it's a pretty darn big facility. And then another instrument pad down here with some new stuff on it. I'll probably need to look into that because my map's getting a little old here. But regardless, HAARP is one of a few of these around the world. So what I want to do real quick is let's just go ahead and take a look at the rest of the ionospheric heaters from around the world. And I will zoom out for that. Ooh, let's get this ICAO flight nav aids off the screen. That is an eyesore. So, other ionospheric heaters around the world. We have the Arecibo Observatory Enhanced High Frequency Ionospheric Heating Instrument. Now, this one's located at the equator. It's kind of the oddball because what you're going to notice is most of them, except for the Indian one there, they tend to be closer to the North Pole. Just generally speaking, they're Arctic based. Coincidence? Not really. Has to do with the Van Allen belts and magnetic field lines, but regardless, the one at Arecibo should be pretty famous for you guys. You've probably seen it in the 007 movies where they got the big dome. It's 305 meters wide and they have the catwalk over top of it. Well, in this bad boy right here, they actually it was blown over during a hurricane and then they rebuilt it. So now there's a new ionospheric heater at Puerto Rico. Anyway, for some reason I just killed my mouse right here. Let's refresh this for everybody at home. So that's under ClimateViewer maps by Jim Lee, Geoengineering, and Ionospheric Heaters Everywhere. Down here in Peru is the Jicamarca Super Darn. This is technically one of the Super Dual Auroral research network, radar network radars, but man, it's 4.5 megawatt. It's more powerful than HAARP. So that in and of itself means it's a hell of a heater. It's run by the National Science Foundation and Cornell University's down there in Japan, all working together. And they have the Julia coherent radar down there. So it's a huge field or antenna. Looks just like HAARP. Pretty creepy little guy. Let's see what else we got on here. Fire around this way. This is the National MST Radar Facility. Pretty freaking cool photo here. Check this thing out. So these two photos right here are an eyeful. So kind of looks like one of them old antennas you'd have on your television, like back in the day. You know what I mean? Like the antenna arrays there, not so fancy like HAARP. But then you see this other photo, and it's like glowing, like the whole field is glowing greenish thing. This is the actual photo. Pretty creepy stuff. So microwaves doom aplenty. That one, what was the power on that? 2.5 megawatts, 2,500,000 watts, and that is in Andhra Pradesh, India. NMRF. That's a nasty. Anyway, this is the Shigaraki MU Observatory in Japan. Of course, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you all know that I just think this is the coolest looking one of the Ionosphere Heaters. I mean, that's about as Star Trek-y as you can get in a design. So it's round. Still got the same kind of antenna design as the Indian facility, but down in a dome, you know, kind of like a hexagonal thing, big honeycomb with the spiral. I mean, everything about that just screams cool. I mean, I'm sorry, that's pretty epic looking at every time I look at it. So, coming in at only 1 megawatt. It's nowhere near as powerful as HAARP. It's only 1 million watts. But hey, when you're talking 1 million watts coming out of microwave, that's nothing to shake stick at. So over here in the middle of Russia, now most people don't know about the Russian ionospheric heater. This is one of 2 Russian ionospheric heaters. This is the one that's operational. I'm kind of remiss to leave it out, but in addition to the Sura ionospheric heating facility, which has been in operation for back since the 80s, they also had the one at Chernobyl, and it was known as the Russian woodpecker or the Russian Duga 3 radar. Now, the woodpecker was powered by the Chernobyl nuclear reactor and was accused of making weather warfare over America. And you know, the freaking military really didn't like that too much. Here I'm just bringing up a picture real quick for you guys. Watch this real quick. Let's see this guy. So here it is. Thank you to my homeboy Dominic Marama at weathermodificationhistory.com for bringing this one up. But the Russian woodpecker, as pictured here, also known as steel yard over the horizon radar, and some stuff on that. Nice little infographic on that. But it's basically like what you imagine with HAARP, but on its side, it's vertical. And you can see over here on the other side of the screen in some of these graphics how they were using 3 separate microwaves. Yeah, man, we dig up that history, Harry, or excuse me, Henry, in chat. My homeboys in chat. Chernobyl and the woodpecker, man, it's something that people don't know about. So, you know, during the 80s, we had some pretty severe winters, some weird El Nino action, and it was basically blamed on the Russians using ionospheric heaters in triplets to heat portions of the sky to create artificial high pressure zones, things like that. This is no laughing matter. I mean, you know, when you look into this history, you start really beginning to freak out. You know, is ELF able to manipulate the weather? Has a technique devised by Tesla permitted the Soviets to alter the world's weather? You know, and this is from, you know, some legit Popular Communications 1984. This is not some conspiracy thing. That's the power of history. You know, weathermodificationhistory.com is unique in that we are constantly digging up things like this. So what the question remains is, is this possible? Is it possible that Tesla style weapons are, on the one hand, historically used to do weather warfare, to boil portions of the sky over opposing countries, circumventing the NMOD law? Or is it all just, hunky dory, look, man, we're just making some artificial aurora here? Because if it's just making artificial aurora and, it's all in the up and up, then that doesn't explain why when, I went to the weather modification conference and I was speaking to these people, they very, very, surprised, not surprisingly to me, but they were pretty shocked. They were like, look, man, hey, we're the Navy, we sold HAARP. We don't have to deal with that crap anymore. Don't talk about modifying the ionosphere. But then you go to the HAARP page and they're like, hey, man, we're going to cook the sky tomorrow. So which is it? I mean, are people outraged about this stuff? How do you feel? I'd like to know how you feel about this. I mean, because we've come a long way towards transparency. Just that, this is going on. Now, of course, we don't have the induction magnetometer, telling us when it's on and off. And yes, we could get a web SDR. I don't know if you guys are familiar with web SDR, but that's software-driven radio. It allows you to monitor frequencies. If anybody can get me a good SDR location link or something that's in the Alaska area so that I too can tune in to HAARP, I would appreciate that. I'm down here in Sumter, South Carolina. Of course, Mr. Fallon and company say that all this week you may be able to see an artificial aurora if you are in the Fairbanks, Alaska area. So get your cameras out. You may see the sky glow a little bit. And, hey, it's one for the records. They're back at it. They're cooking the sky. I hope you guys will, follow along with what they got going on and see if you notice anything funky in the region. Hey, if you're electrically sensitive like myself, if your teeth, begin to chatter or you feel a faint glow in the top of your head, if you're feeling that hum this week, if you just generally notice that people are bitchy all around you, maybe it's because somebody's messing with the electrical currents in the sky. And I don't know about you, I've already noticed it happening in this past week. Many different people from different tribes and families and relations seeing simultaneous electrical interferences in the brains. Mm-hmm. So, hey, man, it's just personal observations driven by a little bit of history. So that being said, guys, come over to climateviewer.org and check out ionospheric heaters like the Tromsø array over in Norway, where they have not one, not two, but 3 separate ionospheric heaters all in one tight little location where they can cook the sky on frequencies ranging from 3.8 to around 8 megahertz, because nothing's cooler than cooking the sky. So, wow, that's about all the sarcasm I have for that. So I'm going to end with this. I actually tweeted this over to Mr. Fallon earlier, as you can see here. I said, by the way, to Chris Fallon, University of Alaska Fairbanks, and the HAARP official account, are you guys trying out any new techniques this week? And this was sent over to me by a good friend who used to go by the name Dielectric Chaos. Shout outs for that one. Nonlinear pendulum equations in space plasma reveal potential radiation belt trick. This was just published. Okay. And it says Sally Jo Cole Johnson, by pairing space plasma wave phenomena with nonlinear pendulum equations, researchers discovered a potential way to artificially generate coherent waves to control conditions within the Van Allen radiation belt. And we come down here. The researchers gained an understanding of not only the nonlinear wave growth mechanism of coherent waves in space plasmas, but also the acceleration and scattering mechanisms of energetic particles that form the Earth's Van Allen radiation belts. This may make it possible to use artificially generated coherent waves to control them and create safer operating conditions within radiation belts. So, using artificially generated coherent waves to control the Van Allen belts to make them safer for operating conditions. If you do not know what any of that means, you need to come over here to ClimateViewer.com, click on Geoengineering, scroll down just a little bit to the HAARP subsection right here, which is available at ClimateViewer.com/HAARP, and get educated on this stuff. What is a heater? Why heat the ionosphere? How does it affect my brain? See a link to the map that I just reference there. I will drop this over here in chat for you guys so you can immediately jump into that. But the HAARP ionospheric heater phenomena is not going to go away. It is a where were we? I was trying to get to that Christophilus effect. There we go. So what are they talking about? They're talking about artificial radiation belt remediation or sucking out the Van Allen belts. Even scarier title, if that doesn't do it for you, ionospheric heaters are destroying the Van Allen belts, where a guy named Dr. Stephen Bortnick, this guy, said, at present, we don't think there's any downside to not having them, referring to the Van Allen belts. But as with all things geophysical, it's hard to know the complex interconnections between various systems and estimate the full effect of removing the radiation belts completely. Bortnick says, air quotes, that's the most any of us really can say at the moment, bro. I mean, we think that if we got rid of the Van Allen belts, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing. So these are the kind of ideas that are being thrown around. Now, I did interview Dr. James Roger Fleming, and he assured me that, this guy's kind of like an outlier. And, of course, I responded to him, hey, me, public guy, I don't know who's cool and who isn't, in the inside, but when a dude like this is saying, hey, we could just, I don't know, maybe we could just destroy the whole damn Van Allen belts. Maybe that'd be a good idea. Or use something like the high voltage orbiting long tether high volt to put tethers in space that suck radiation out. Coincidentally enough, that's exactly what this was called. The tether panel recommendation. Use HAARP facility in Alaska as a wind tunnel to determine the feasibility and engineering specifications of a mitigation system. Mitigation from what? High altitude electromagnetic nuclear pulse. And that is because this is from a slide from satellite threat due to high altitude nuclear detonation, which you can see on my script. And I back this up for obvious reasons. But satellite threat due to high altitude nuclear detonations by Dennis Papadopoulos from the University of Maryland. If you want to know about HAARP and you want to know about a lot of the inside scoop as to how all this got funded, you should start right here. Tether panel HAARP study and DTRA hand Helios study, where they talk about the threats of electromagnetic pulse from crazy nuclear powered idiots like Rocket Man in North Korea, or solar flares like the Carrington event. So the idea is this: if somebody sets off an EMP in space, it would destroy all the satellites, and that would be bad. And it could also destroy a lot of the ground structure, cause things like the TV show Revolution. So that would be a bad thing. So they got here and they said, well, what could happen? It would be really, really bad. You see, in this slide right here, you can see the nuclear bomb goes off up here, but the EMP, it just rains down on everything, basically frying all the circuits. So, that's just the thing. I'm just ignoring some of the retarded comments in chat. That's what I'm going to do because you guys are so distracting. Yeah, I may have to put you on minimize if it continues. So the whole idea here is they were going to the government and saying, look, EMP is a serious problem. We should do something about EMP because, hey, it could be real bad. This trapped energetic particles, they bounce from pole to pole on magnetic field lines, Van Allen belts. And as they do that, they fry satellites. So the general idea is if we can suck radiation out of space, we can save the satellites. Yay! In comes HAARP. And that's where this is. So the basic idea that they sold for, one of the major funding sources of all of this is that they could suck radiation out of space. It's been called radiation belt remediation ever since. Artificial air glow and artificial aurora is a version of that. What they are doing is they are forcing radiation from space to rain out. That's what an aurora borealis is. So if you see an artificial air glow or an artificial aurora, then you are seeing radiation belt remediation in progress. All right, well, I got a little sciencey at the end. Damn, sorry about that. Didn't mean to get too sciencey, but the seriousness of this is this is not all just fun and games and making glow in the sky. When you got guys like the Secretary of Defense saying things like others are engaged in an eco type of terrorism whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. And then you have, really, really powerful electromagnetic waves to the tune of 3.6 million watts, which you can, aim in any direction you like. It starts to get kind of weird. So I'm not saying that, Chris Fallon and the people at the University of Alaska are currently using this hammer to kill people. But as we all know, tools can be used for many different purposes, and they can be used simultaneously by two different individuals. And they both think that, hey, compartmentalization, whatever. But regardless, when the military is on site and they turn this thing on, they have the opportunity to use it in ways that people at the University of Alaska probably never dreamed it could even operate. We also know that the military removed the induction magnetometer, the one thing we really enjoyed looking at to know when the damn thing was on before. And currently, not only is Chris Fallon and his homeboys from the UAF, are they doing their scheduled operations April 6th through the 14th of this week, but that other institutions and government agencies are also going to be using it. So during this time, I will point out the last point, just kind of hit home on what we were talking about. Do ionospheric heaters affect your brain? Now, this is a tough one because, of course, there are people who are just not affected by electricity. I mean, I don't know how to put it. Everybody's affected differently by different things. But I'm just going to give you some of the facts, and you can chew on this. This is available at climateviewer.com/HAARP. Extremely low frequency waves Could be used in conjunction with media broadcasts to subliminally influence brain activity to align itself to delta, theta, alpha, and beta waves, inclining an audience towards everything from alertness to passivity. Infrasound could also be used tactically as ELF waves endure great distances, and it could be used in conjunction with media broadcasts as well. And this is from a military document entitled Mind War. That's not it. So the Russian parliament, concerned about U.S. plan to develop new weapon, and this has a document number. This is from the Federation of American Science, scientists.org website, original transcript right there, fas.org on screen. So just so we're clear, and this was sent from Russia in 2002. This is what the Russians say about HAARP. HAARP program, if not controlled by the global community, will create weapons capable of breaking radio communication lines and equipment installed on spaceships and rockets, provoke serious accidents in electricity networks and in oil and gas pipelines, meaning HAARP can blow up oil and gas pipelines and cause accidents in electrical networks, and have a negative impact on the mental health of people populating entire regions. That's what the Russian government thinks it can do. You know why they think that? Because they've been able to do that for a very long time. So they all know how these things work. Look up the Taos hum. If you've never heard of this term, EAOS hum. The hum is it's sometimes referred to. This is it on Wikimakia. But regardless, look it up. It's a real thing. So generally speaking, what are we talking about with this hum? We're talking about, and I've got a great article on here about HAARP and mind control. Kind of take you down through through all the details I just went over. It's HAARP, ELF generation, and mass mind control. I'll drop that link in chat for you guys. And it really breaks down the facts on this stuff. Now, is HAARP able to control your brain? No. Is it able to give you a headache? There is a distinct possibility, yes. And if used improperly for military purposes, yes, ELF waves can definitely do some damage. But HAARP is far from the only facility on the planet creating ELF and VLF waves. So in this article, I go over things like other broadcast towers from around the world, as you can see here with all these antenna photos as well. Let me see if I can blow that up a little bit. Boom. Oh, yeah. Boom. So this is my older Google Earth version from back in the day. But regardless, same idea. Very high-powered, millions of watts. That one's 350,000 watts. That's 1.2 million watts at Gem Creek, Washington. This is Cutler, Maine, 2 million watts. Very large facilities. They're all over the world, and most of these are always on. That is Harold Holt down in Exmouth, Australia. It is also 2 million watts. 2 million watts, people. All of these maps are available on ClimateViewer.com. I even got you can see right there, I got a photo from a friend who was actually there, and it says power consumption, approximately 3 million watts. Bam! Now that's a power bill. I mean, right there. Power input, 6 3-megawatt diesel generators housed in a power plant. Dang. Maximum power output 2 megawatt, approximately. So yeah, that's a lot of energy going out there. And then of course the monsters, the old Clam Lake, Wisconsin 76 hertz ELF transmitter. You can see this red line here That's 7 miles as the scale there. That's actually like a telephone cord up and on poles. That is the Clam Lake one, and that's the Republic, Michigan one. It's shaped like an F, as you can see here. There's a photo of it right there. I believe that's Billy Hayes right there. But these two together were the predecessor before HAARP for them to talk to, submarines on the bottom of the ocean. This one's 3 million watts right here. It's huge. I mean, it's 7, 8 miles, 9 miles long that way and 10 miles long that way. And this one's about the same size. This is an 11-mile scale right there. That's probably 20, 30 miles. That's crazy. So absolutely huge. People, and this is where the Taos hum originated. The term, at least where I heard about it from, was from these two facilities operating in Republic, Michigan and Clam Lake, Wisconsin, that people in the area felt a hum in their head. They could hear it, that they literally were jumping the fences and cutting the wires to stop this damn thing. A little bit of history. And of course, that detail right there. And here is a video titled The Hum, and it's called Taos Hum Project ELF. It's also known as Project Sanguine. Creepy, right? Sanguine. Anybody knows what the word sanguine knows how creepy that is about. Anyway, then there's the 82 hertz ZEBS ELF transmitter. It's in Russia, and that's it. And of course, that brings us to HAARP. HAARP's the big boy right there. And nobody does ELF like HAARP or ULF. HAARP can produce down to a 0.001 hertz frequency and up to like 20,000 hertz through various modes of ELF and VLF. Patents on that there, and some other stuff from Bernhardt and Papadopoulos to make it all look interesting for you guys playing at home. And Demeter, Shear Alvin waves, and how they make this stuff. And you can see right there, 2.5 hertz peaking out. That's pretty low frequency. There's the old HAARP induction magnetometer we were talking about back in the day that was so darn sexy. Oh, I miss you, induction magnetometer. You were so cool. But now, anyway, lots of details on that. I'm going to bore the hell out of you. You guys check out all the links. They are going to be in the details. HAARP's back online. Going to be a crazy cooking week. And I'll be following along with Mr. Fallon and company and see what we see. So anybody, if you have any reports on, something going down, if you actually get some photographs of some of the crazy clouds going on out there, I'd love to see that. If you guys want to hit me up in the comments, what do you think about all this? I mean, are you offended by all this? Is this just like, all right, it's just normal now? I mean, they're boiling the Alaskan sky, baked Alaskan all week up in Gakona. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. I'd appreciate it. And guys, keep the comment, the support coming. I just started my Patreon back up. Going to be hitting it pretty hard this year, doing some leg work, and I'm finishing up these videos from the AMS conference I just attended. Check those out. They'll be over here on the sidebar at the NMOD page, the Environmental Modification Accountability Act. I'm going to be using hashtag NMODAA for that. So please, support my solution to this geoengineering problem of no accountability and transparency. And please subscribe if you're new here. If it's your first time visiting, tell people about my websites, please, because I've been having some trouble with Facebook and others deleting my links, getting lots of reports about that. So ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, and the best kept secret apparently around, weathermodificationhistory.com. I hope you guys will check through that and really look into some of these details, because the more we know, the more we grow, the more we'll be able to do about this and have an honest, open discussion about all of the facets of climate engineering and boiling the sky, ionospheric modification, and the like. So with that being said, attack ideas, not people.